2 bad choices, followed by 1 bad choice, as usual. September 22, 2019 by Anna von Reitz. When you educate yourself about history of money in America, you will hear about the Continental Dollar, a script issued by the first fledgling government which suffered its demise through hyperinflation. What the textbooks never tell you is that the hyperinflation was caused by purposeful British counterfeiting. You will also never be told that we are suffering the effects of this same evil now, and for the same reason, British counterfeiting. Trillions of dollars worth of $100 bills were printed by the Obama administration, which sent actual government printing presses, engraving plates, paper and ink, to places like Burma and China and Thailand and Kuwait so that our currency could be hyperinflated and devalued. This was a supplement to quantitative easing, which, as Godfrey Bloom and I agree, is just another form of counterfeiting. So, once again, for those who are paying attention, it should be perfectly obvious that our enemy and the enemy of all mankind is the British government responsible for this and for a great many other evils. This same British government that has been manipulating our government for many generations using means both fair and extremely foul, as in this case. Barack Obama was born in East Africa, a British territorial citizen from the get-go, and no more a communist than I am. Following their usual modus operandi and pretending to be their enemies, they hope to blame him on the communists and at the same time, infiltrate the communist ranks. Just like Hitler, he was an implant acting under the direction of the Lord Mayor of London and the Lords of the Admiralty. His differences with the Queen were quite genuine, in that he was the boy toy of Westminster and the British Crown, which have sought to undermine and compromise her position for the sake of commercial interests all her life. And the form of British government that Obama worked for, and so far as I know, still works for, is a bully boy for the Pope. The only religion these people believe in is the idol worship of Mammon. Let's be perfectly clear here, I don't hate or dislike the British people. Far from it. Nor do I have anything against sincere Roman Catholics. It's the extremely evil corporate interests that have been using the Queen and the Church as storefronts for their operations that I object to. Just look at all the little graven images in your own pockets. These are the products they sell, regardless of whether they are called Federal Reserve notes, or dollars, or francs, or British pounds sterling, and regardless also of whether or not these products are made of paper or gold or silver or plastic or anything else. They are just products, like so many variations of little wooden tiki gods produced by Omar the idol maker. To compound the idiocy of mistaking the image for the fact, and ascribing any special value to any of these things at all, we trade these things back and forth, and bet on them, and hoard them and play all sorts of games with them. Via their manipulation, some people live lives of total immoral sloth, others commit gross crimes for want of even a little supply of these little idols, some countries have far more than they can ever spend, and others have to beg. From the perspective of an angel on earth, this whole place has been turned into an insane asylum because of money. Horrible injustices have been spawned because of it. Countries have been overrun for it. Billions of people have died to get it or died for lack of it, and it's a mirage. There is no such thing as money as a store of value. There is no safety or reason to run helter-skelter trying to find shelter for a value that does not exist. Imagine my consternation and grim amusement as I listen to men argue earnestly all day long about the strength of gold, the weakness of the dollar, and watch the ceaseless ebb and flow of the betting that goes on. It's all completely Looney Tunes, objectively insane, an active defiance of logic and fact, and it is institutionalized all over the planet, locked down like a cement overcoat over nearly everybody's minds. How can such a thing be? How can it endure? It's called operant conditioning. The mouse drops a piece of litter into the cup and gets a piece of cheese. The mouse drops a piece of litter into the cup and gets a piece of ham. The mouse drops a piece of litter into the cup and gets a piece of bread. As a result, the mouse associates the piece of litter with value because it translates into cheese and ham and bread. The banking system has done the same thing to delude and condition the responses of otherwise sane and sober men. The thing being used as money is the litter, the cash register or card reader as the cup, and whatever the mouse receives as the reward. And because it is rewarded each and every time, the mouse goes back for more. All that is simple enough and easy enough to see. But is that piece of necessary litter really worth anything? No. Is it really necessary? No. Is the nature, color, or material used to make the litter important? No, it's completely arbitrary. Because of this early operant conditioning and the fact that their parents have also been bamboozled, billions of people on this planet develop a basic logic fault. It's like a feedback loop in a computer program. The logic process concerning money goes so far, stops, and returns to reset blip blurp forever and ever. Even otherwise well-educated and experienced people can't engage me in an intelligent conversation about this topic because of their firm belief that money has value. And my equally firm conviction that it's nothing but a traditional and well-orchestrated con game. It's as if the whole human race is a family of pea pickers set on automatic pilot. My great-grandfather was a pea picker, and my grandfather was a pea picker, and my father was a pea picker, and I am a pea picker, and my son is a pea picker, and my grandson is a pea picker, ad infinitum. And when it comes to money, they can't break their minds out of the seemingly inescapable destiny of being a pea picker, money user, too. All over the world, people can't imagine a world without money. They can't even entertain the thought of other forms of money, much less the all-important question of who or what should control your access to money, if you are going to use such a cock-a-doodle-loo system in the first place. So let's go over some important and relatively recent history and facts. Sovereign governments can't go bankrupt, but incorporated governments, or to be exact, governmental services corporations, can. So these yahoos have been operating as governmental services corporations, making false claims against the assets of the people and of the countries they are supposed to serve, obtaining credit based on this purloined collateral, charging whatever they want against credit owed to others, then going bankrupt, and leaving the victims, the presumed to be co-signers, holding the bag for them. The world's governments are involved in something that is very little more sophisticated than a credit card hacking scheme. And except for Iran and North Korea and some Pacific Island kingdoms, they are all in on it. They all think they are so smart, that their actions are so secret, that nobody will figure out what they are doing, how they are doing it, why they are doing it, and ultimately, who is responsible for it. The generals and the bankers are responsible for it. Both. But when push comes to shove, you can bet that the bankers will get the bad end of that deal, now and forever, anon. It will surprise many people to learn that bankruptcy is a patented business model based on deliberate insurance fraud against the public, and that insurance is merely legalized gambling among commercial corporations. This is why you can add your spouse to any insurance plan without a marriage license. The license permits the legal presumption that the marriage is in fact a joint venture among commercial corporation franchises, and the parties to it, interpreted as commercial corporations, not living people, are by this pretense made insurable. Also in this way, living people who are otherwise owed absolute indemnity, become subject to tax collection, tariff collection, and, in a divorce, subject to the distribution of their assets by their unseen, silent partner. In all this skullduggery, the same governmental services corporation that has secretively gained an insurable interest in your marriage and the products thereof, otherwise known as your children, via the issuance of a marriage license. This is also one of the primary scams they play to make you liable to debtor's prison and impoundment. What does a bail bondsman really do? He provides a bailment, an insurance policy for the guilty state of state, guaranteeing their insurable interest in you, with yet another insurance policy issued by another gambler. It's all stupid enough to provoke howls of laughter, but the damage all this sanctimonious crime causes is absolutely mind-boggling. Instead of people simply working together to take care of themselves as a group, they muddle along and let all these parasites and predators play havoc, and these service organizations and professional associations exponentially increase the actual cost of the services needed many, many times over. Now, you have the lay of the land and the stench of the stink, and it should not surprise you to find that what you think of as your money has no magical value. It's not special. It's not mysterious. It's a commodity like pork bellies. If it is made of gold, it has the market value of that much gold. If it is made of paper, it has whatever value people will pay for it, usually under the duress and coercion of legal tender laws. So, there are two established schools of money manipulation. There are the gold merchant banks, who manipulated world government corporations to steal and hoard vast amounts of gold, so that they could force the use of fiat currencies, devalue them, drive up the price of gold, and then, cash in by controlling access to the gold supplies and forcing the great-grandsons and great-granddaughters of the people they stole all the gold from in the first place, to buy it all back at a 10,000% or more value accrual plus interest price. Right. Theirs is a simple, brutal commodity rigging scheme. They hope to evade attention and public understanding of what they were, and still are, doing by staggering this scheme out over decades and boiling the frogs slowly, milking the value out of the fiat currency they forced upon us as they went. This is the 100-year plan of the schemers who built the Federal Reserve. They were so entrenched and so successful, that J.D. Rockefeller and the Vanderbilts and J.P. Morgan and the Mellons and other party hearties decided to start the International Monetary Fund, a vast fiat and securities-based commercial credit fund, and use other commodities besides gold, but including blood and labor, as the basis of their lending. They also schemed to control by interbank treaties and agreements the transfer of credits and debts between banks. Both of these groups collude with each other to bilk and milk the public. They simply use different instruments to do it, which amounts to, would you prefer to be dismembered using a knife or a saw? Joachim and Boaz, pillar and post, again. For the past several years these groups have been paralyzing each other, one group blocking, one group unblocking, back and forth, as they jockey around trying to keep 2 steps in front of the bank and securities regulators, who are finally waking up and taking steps, only because it has occurred to them that they, also, might otherwise lose their heads, and 10 steps ahead of the general public, which will roast them alive like Jacques de Molay if average working people ever wake up and realize how badly they've been abused by the whole delusion of money. I have suggested to both groups, that for the good of the whole world, and their own health, they should come up with a solution. This is what they've come up with. They will have a group of cronies in the municipal U.S. Senate ram through a new digital currency based on nothing at all but digits and false claims. They, the same guilty bankers, will parcel out the digits to their cronies and use this so-called money of account, which is created by entering digits onto a bank ledger, to pay off the endlessly stupid government officials and labor unions. I burst out laughing. I couldn't help it. They create this whole problem, they inculcate this whole bizarre system of idol worship, they kill billions of people over the course of 3 centuries, they build a whole civilization based on fraud and criminality, they truncate and maim countless lives, and the best they can come up with as recompense, is a system that costs them nothing, which they control, and which they can use at will to abuse anyone on earth. They propose to have this Senate action carried through by December the 18th, so that they can celebrate their conquest of the entire planet on their pagan holiday, the winter solstice. I had to remind them that nothing the municipal or territorial officers do has any validity at all with respect to us and our land and soil holdings, and never has. So they will in fact have nothing to peddle but a glorified credit card system and more hot air. To say that this solution is not a solution and not at all acceptable, would be a gross understatement. The arrogance and affront involved is breathtaking. L'audace, toujours l'audace, but audacity on the part of capital-level criminal felons who have been caught in the act is not audacity. My solution involves deprogramming the operant conditioning. Just plain removing it as if it never was, letting people see money for what it really is, and letting the bankers and their products go spin in the wind of the abyss. So, between the 2 extremes, they better get serious about a real solution, and they'd better not expose their cronies, including those in the U.S. Senate, the Knesset, and the Parliament. At the rate things are going, they will need every crony they've got.